Testing, testing. Late. Testing, testing. Okay, welcome to Programming Rainbow. In this video, I am going to restart the Beginner's Guide to SDL2 in C because that was the first video series that I ever did, and I'm not happy with the quality of it, but people keep using it, so I want to make sure that people have the best information that I could give them on this. So I felt like some of the things I didn't really like the way that they were done, and also I wanted to add in other things as well. So I'm just going to redo that series, and hopefully it's better this time, and everybody gets to enjoy it. So you can follow along with this by going to, let's see here. So you can follow along by going to github.com, Programming Rainbow, and this will be called Beginner's Guide to SDL2 in C, Updated. So I'm leaving the old one there for anybody who's following the old videos, or, I'm just leaving that information alone. This one's called Updated. So you can clone that repository. And I did put instructions here if you're on Arch Linux, by the way, or if you're on Mac OS. And it's pretty basic. You just need SDL2. And I'm assuming you have like make or something. And you need to clone the repository and you can build it. This does have a make file, but we're not going to really need anything to get this up and running. So let me just show you what the final project's going to look like. So I'm just going to use the make file, but then we're not going to be using it in the beginning here. So I'm just going to show you the final build. So this is the final project. And it does kind of look like the original one where we got SDL bouncing around the screen, but this time it's bubbled in white, and we also have the player moving around. And I can change the colors and all this. I should have the music muted right now, so if I press M, we should have music, and I'm going to mute that. And if I press S, we should have sound effects. Or it's not S, sorry, N. SDL. Put it on a different key. And we should have it's saying SDL as it's bouncing off the wall. And then we can also show the FPS we're getting. So right now I'm getting around 7,100 FPS. This is obviously I'm capturing this video at 60 FPS and my monitor can only display 120, but SDL doesn't know that, and it's actually kicking over as fast as it possibly can. So it's generating all the images and doing everything it does at 7,000 FPS. If I show the position of this SDL moving around the screen, you'll see that the FPS dropped quite a bit because what I'm doing here is every single time I update these strings, they're kind of these string objects that this is new to this version as well. And they're anchored in everything else, that it actually does this whole bubble effect drawing around it. So it's this is supposed to be much more helpful for people who want to start building games. They have this kind of text object system already in place, and they can do bubbles around anything. They can also anchor, the text as they want. What else was it? Oh, we can resize the window here. So, and it's going to stay correct, aspect ratio. Now, SDL can go full screen as well, but that would mess up my capture right now. So I didn't put the full screen in, but you could probably figure that out pretty easily. So I'll turn these off. So these are all just little options that you can do. So that is the project we're building. So it kind of, you should be able to do all kinds of different things when you get done with this. And I try to make it much cleaner than last time. So if this is the first time you're following along with this, I'm going to just walk through kind of the documentation step by step. So over here, we have, if we back up to just the SDL website, so yeah, I think it just does SDL3 right now as the default. Let me see. Yeah, it does. It defaults to SDL3. SDL3 is not finished yet, and I do want to make videos on that. But because the sound system is not ready and it's in a broken state, even though they're claiming it's done, it is not done yet. So I cannot make videos on it because it is not done, and I have no way of making a video on a product that is not completed yet. So unfortunately, we're ignoring SDL3 right now until it is done, and we're going to SDL2. So when you're on this web page here, if you go down to like there's the API categories and quick reference, that's where I was at already. So I was in I went to the API categories, and it automatically took me to the SDL3. But if you just change the 3 to the 2, you can get to the 2 version. And this is where we're going to be kind of referencing a lot of stuff out of here. So to get a window open, that's what we want to do. The first thing we need to do is initialize SDL2. So this is the page on that. And if we were in here, it's up at the top, I believe, right here. If I just open this up, I'm going to get something talking about initializing SDL2. So we need to bring it online. And if an error does happen, we will check errors. But I just want to do a very simple version first. So we use a function to bring it online with any flags we're using. And then we're going to clean up, we're going to take it offline when we're done with it. When we do have it online, we want to make a window. And when we take that window offline, we destroy the window. We want to create a render to use the render and then to destroy that. And unfortunately for anybody who's on Mac OS, if I just try to do a basic one where I just open up a window for like 5 seconds, that doesn't actually work on Mac OS because if it doesn't see that we're taking input from the person, it will just not even open a window. So what we're going to do is we're going to go straight to taking input from a person so that people on Mac and Linux can enjoy this as well. So we are going to be looking at the events because we need to get the events and the keyboard event, or we could just do a quit event first. But with the keyboard events, this is kind of all the functions we're going to be looking at here. So I kind of want to do a very basic version and then clean it up a bit, because a basic version where we're not doing any error checking and it's just chucked into one function, and then we're going to separate it out and clean it up. So we're going to run through that. So let's start with this init. So to initialize SDL, we can take some flags. It's going to return an int, and I believe it is 0 on success, which is counterintuitive. This is why my initial video series, I was using false as the happy path. That's because 0 is false. I'm not going to do that here, but SDL2 does return 0 on success. SDL3 does the opposite. SDL3 does a Boolean, and it's true on success and negative on failure. So this one is going to return a 0 if it's good, probably a -1 or something other than 0 if it fails. And we can put in some flags here. So the only flag I'm worried about right now is the video one. So SDL init video. We're going to initialize the video system. And that's the only thing we really need. So that's going to get SDL up and running. And to shut it down, it's just a function. It takes no parameters. It returns nothing. It's just SDL quit. Pretty good. And then we're going to go create a window. So I'm just going to jump right in and just start throwing these functions in. And then we're going to make them better later. Follow some of your SDL3 guides. I'm because my SDL2 guide is a little bit out of date and not very good, and my SDL3 is broken right now. So like since SDL3 is not in a finished state and not in a usable state, I can't make a video on it right now. So I'm kind of messed me up that SDL3 is broken and unfinished. That's why. So they changed their sound system, and their sound system cannot be built with the current version of SDL3. You have to wait till the future sometime when they actually release the version of SDL3 that is needed for the sound system. So I'm just remaking my SDL2 guide so it's in a better state. And then I'll probably modify my SDL3 guide. I already have a guide like this, but I'll probably have to change the last video on it because that's the one with the sound. Okay, so let's jump in. So I have this video one. I'm just going to rename source to source old. If you've cloned this repository, you can open it up with any editor you want. You don't need anything. You don't need syntax highlighting or anything. However, if you are on Linux or Mac and you are using ClangD as your language server, I did put in the .clangd file for people who are on Mac because your include header files are in a different location. But so it should work for Linux and Mac people there. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to rename the source directory to old because I actually don't want to get rid of it. I want to keep it. So I don't want to lose anything there. And we're just going to make a new source directory. So I'm just going to, however you want to make a new directory, I'm just going src. We got a new directory. And in this new directory, I'm just going to put a single file. It's going to be called main.c, sorry. Okay. And let's just, make the function. So main, and we're not going to pass anything into it. So we have our main function, and I'm just going to do some print statements real quick. So we need to include whoops. So we can do let's do a couple statements here real quick. Just a hello world. And then I'm going to put two print statements here. Let's say standard out. Yeah. We need a new line character on this one because it's a print, not a puts. And now I'm going to do an f print f. And I'm going to say standard error. And I'll let's put here. I can't remember if fprintf is in. Trying to think what. By the way, this one needs. I'm going to send this to standard error. So fprintf is file printf. So file print formatted. So the first F is for this. So I'm sending it to file descriptor standard error instead of standard out, whereas printf just sends it to standard out. So, and puts also sends to standard out. So, yeah. So I'm just going to make this with the GCC. If you're on a Mac, I think if you use CC or something, it just goes to Clang. So either way, you can use Clang or GCC. So this will be source main.c, and we'll just call it main or something. Okay, so we have hello world, standard out, standard error, yeah? So let's get rid of standard error, okay? Okay, so we sent standard error, which is file descriptor 2, to the black hole. And so we can see that that's different than standard out. Let's send standard out to the black hole, which is 1. So now we just have the error message. Okay, so we understand that we have these things talking on two different file descriptors. This is talking on standard out, and this is talking on standard error. So I'm going to, anytime I'm doing any error message, I'm using fprintf because that's going to standard error. Any other time I'm just printing a message for any reason, I'm just going to do it to standard out. The other thing I want to show, I skipped it. So I'm really sorry about this. Let me go back into source old. And the other thing I have in here is this whole thing about the FPS. I did display the FPS, but I didn't talk much about it. And what I had done there is I had unlocked it so it could fly as far as it wanted, But the purpose of the FPS is actually to set it. So let's just set it to 60. And I'm going to go source. I'm going to explain the makefile at another state. I don't want to use the makefile too much in this video, but just to show you how this is working. So what did I did? It is called source old, yeah. What did I do here? I'm not sure if it's because it's just called source old, but if I show FPS now, it's 60. Let me just restart it again without the clean. And it goes from 0 to 60. So the very first second, it'll give you back the FPS every second. So the very first second, it doesn't have FPS yet because it's counting the frames. And you'll notice everything's moving at the same speed. So this is all using delta time. So this will be all in this series as well. And this will be a drop-in thing for any of your projects. You'll just be able to drop this FPS thing in and use it, and your project should be happy. So I did have it unlocked at like 10,000 FPS or something like that, just to show you how high it would go. But ideally, you would be doing something either locked to 60 or something else like that. So, and it does use delta time. So these things are all moving via delta time. So sorry I should explain that earlier. So this is all going to be using that kind of stuff. Let's go back to where we were now. I'm just going to rename this to 2 or something because I don't want to get rid. Okay, so we are not in here, we are in here. So I just wanted to show the difference between standard out and standard error. Just know that we are using standard error for any error messages and standard out. So that is a thing. And again, if we run the main, and we've sent, what I've done here is dev null is just a black hole. So I sent file descriptor 1 to dev null, or file descriptor 2 to dev null, or I could do, what is it like? I always forget this one. I think it's 2 to file descriptor 1, something like that. And now they both got sent to the black hole. So I sent 1 to the black hole, and I sent to 2 to the address of file descriptor 1. So they both ended up going to the same place. Not very interesting. So let's do the whole, let's start getting going with SDL2. So we're going to do this one right here. We do need SDL.h. So we're going to pull that in. And because of the way I have, if you're using, I'm using a Clang, sorry, right there, where it is. I'm using Clang D right here. If you are using Clang D on Linux or Mac, because of this file here, it should work on both for you just fine. Other than that, you're going to have to figure out where your header files are. So I've already installed SDL2, and this is the way you would do it right here. This is the command right here. And since it's already installed, it's not going to do anything for me. I also have the command there on the page for macOS people. They're going to use brew. So assuming that that's already installed, we are going to include, and this is an SDL2 folder, and this is SDL.h. So that's what we're going to need, or it's not going to know what that function was. So that first function is SDL init. So all the SDL commands start with SDL then underscore. And this one takes flags, and it could fail on us. So the flag that I want to use, I'm going to separate it out. Let's look down here, is SDL init video. So that's the flag that I want to use. And I'm going to hold it because I might change these flags later. And these are going to be in different files and stuff. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a pound define and to hold my flags into one place. So if I ever change them, I don't need to search through my code. So I'm going to do this with several of the different flags. You're going to see this. So I'm going to put it up here as a pound define. This is just a global, and it doesn't matter because it's just something, I don't care where it is in the code, but it's always going to be in my main.h file in the end. So I'm going to call this SDL flags. And what we want is SDL init. And right now it's video. But we could change this later by doing something like this. And we could pipe it, which that is a logical OR, with like SDL init, was it audio? Something like that, right? That would work too. So I'm going to leave that like that. I'm going to kind of do this with all of the things where these will all be together in one spot. All of these pound defines, I'm going to put them in main.h at some point in another video. And so I don't need to look through my codes. So right here, I'm going to say SDL flags. I don't like using macros at all, but I do use pound define and I have to use include. So those are the two macros that I use. Okay, so this function could fail. But let's just skip that. Let's just not worry about it failing for a minute. Let's go to the next one. So we do know at the end we want SDL quit, right? So, and that takes no parameters. So let's just comment that out. And I'll say SDL quit right here. And we could just put the print statement here, or the puts or something that we can say all clean or something. So we know that we got this far in the code. So that's going to bring SDL online with this flag and take it offline, but it won't do anything. We won't see anything. We really need a window. So I'm not going to compile that because it's not going to do anything. So to create a window, the actual window that's going to be drawn on the screen, we're going to use SDL create window. And this takes some parameters. This takes a string that is going to be the title that's on the window. And then it's going to take an X, a Y, a width, and a height. So the X and the Y, I'm going to use this macro that SDL has, which is SDL window pause centered. I'm going to use that for both the width and, or sorry, the X and the Y. So it calculates itself based on the width and the height, how to center it. So I'm going to use both of those. And for width and height, I'm going to use my own pound defines for window width and window height because I'll need those at other times and they'll need to be the exact same number. And then we have flags down here. So for right now, I'm just going to use the shown one. I believe there's a Windows shown. Yeah, I'm going to use this. Later on, we will be changing this. So right now, I'm just going to do that. And that's going to be in a thing I'm going to make. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to grab this function. We'll go back to the code. And we didn't even check error in that first one. We will come back and make this better. I just want to do the simple thing first. So this is going to make a window. We'll just call it win. So this function returns a window pointer. So it's a pointer. We're calling it win. There we go. So we do need a title. And instead of writing them all in here as magic values, I'm going to put them up here. So let me separate out a bit. Yeah, I'm just thinking about how I did it before. Hold on. Sorry about that. So I want to add in those things. So we need a title, we need a width and height, and we need some flags, right? That will be windows shown or something like that. So the title, I'm going to say window title, right? And now we'll just put a string here. And something I always get tripped up at is sometimes I put a semicolon here and it causes really strange behavior. Like everybody probably knows this, and I should always know this, but I still manage to do it too many times. So make sure you don't put semicolons. And if you ever have some strange behavior, you don't know what's going on, look at your pound defines and make sure you didn't accidentally put a semicolon there. So we'll call this open window. We don't need to put a period or anything. And we want a window height. Or sorry, let's do width. And I'm going to, for this one, I'm going to do 1280. Make it a little bit bigger than before. Height. I'm trying to type holding the... Okay, so we got window width, window height. That's going to be for this guy, for those two, and flags is going to be the window shown. Where is that? SDL window shown. And remember, I'm going to be using this SDL window pause centered as well. So this one, I'm going to call this define, and this one's going to be window flags. And this will be SDL window shown. This again will be edited later, though we'll be adding to it. Okay, and so we have the window title here, so let's just drop it in. And for the X and the Y, we're going to use the SDL window pause centered. And that same one. And then for width, we're using our own. Whoops. Window width. And I'm using all capitals whenever I'm doing any kind of thing that is like a pound define or a global or something like that. It's going to be all capital. And SDL is doing the same thing. It's kind of standard thing in C. Window height. And for the flags, we have our window flags. Okay. So that should be everything. If we haven't done anything wrong, I'll just do a save on that. And the LSP says I haven't made any spelling mistakes, which is really nice. So to reverse this whole creating of the window, we are going to destroy the window. And this returns nothing as well. By the way, the window does return a pointer to a window, and we would check to make sure that that pointer is really populated or not. If it comes back as null, that means something bad happened and it didn't create it. So this one, we are going to do SDL destroy window, and we just pass in that pointer to the window. That's all we do. And I'm doing first in, first out. So since I've made we brought SDL online first, and then second, we took first in, last in, first out. Sorry about that. Last in, first out. So since we brought SDL online and then we've created this window object, I'm going to destroy the window object first because it was the last in. And then we're taking SDL offline. So right here is the win above that we did. The win right there. This pointer right here goes right here. And we're, again, not checking anything. We're just going to keep going. If I try to make something right now, let me actually compile it right now. What it's going to do is it's going to create a window, but it will be drawn very wrong. The inside of it'll do the border of the window, but the inside will be not drawn correctly. So I'm going to use the SDL delay as like a way to pause for like 5,000 should be 5 seconds. And so the way that we would compile this now, I'm going to try to do it for everybody's system. I'm just going to show real quick for me. This would be GCC. And this isn't going to work right here because I am using, and we don't need this. My LSP automatically added that. We don't need that. So SDL, since we're using SDL, we need to tell it, we need to link against SDL. Be down here. So it would be LSDL like that. And let's just see if that works. Okay, I couldn't find SDL2. There we go. And this should just make a very terrible looking window, right? See, it looks messed up. And if I drag it around, it's messed up. That's because we have no render and we didn't clear a render or anything else. Like if you are following along with this and you don't know where your SDL are, you can use package config. So let me just show this by itself. So we need if you don't know where your headers are, you can look at C flags. So you can say package config, and this should work on Linux and Mac OS. And you go -- C flags and then SDL2, and it'll tell you where your C flags are. And you could actually just drop this right into your command. And if now that's where the header files are. If you didn't know where the header files are for your system, so on my system, you can see that they are in the user include. So if we wanted to know how to link it against the library, we could say libs, and we see this -L SDL2. That's what I used. So if we put these two commands with the GCC, right, and we just drop this guy right here. Oops. I can never remember how to copy in here. And let's try this version. Yeah, that'll work. And then the other one was just -L SDL2. So let's do that. -L SDL2. And that compiled as well. But this is very, this becomes cumbersome. So instead of doing that, hello, how you doing? I can see you on Twitch. So instead of doing that, let's just use the package config, right? And the very strange thing with this is you have to do the package config for both of them separately. It just seems odd, but I think it's something to do with the expansion, or maybe it's because I'm in Fish. I'm not really sure. So what you could do here, if you don't know where anything is on your system, you could say you could just put the package config here. It's not config, it's conf. -C flags, and then SDL2, and then separately, I know you could actually put both flags here, but it doesn't expand right, and it won't build. Well, I'll show that. So if I go libs, this should work, right? If I were to say echo on this, it did expand to all the stuff I need, right? But if I try to use it, if I try to say GCC source main.c and then output it to main, this is going to fail on me. Yeah, see, it failed. And it's something to do with the expansion, so I don't know why. So just run them separately like this. And this will be conf. And this one was libs, SDL2. And that should work. Yeah, that works. Okay, so there's a makefile here. We could just use the makefile, but I just want you to kind of, if you've never done this before, you can just use GCC. And if you are on Mac OS, I think CC automatically sorry, let me try that again. I believe CC on my system goes to GCC. Yeah, that still works. If you're on Mac, CC actually points at Clang. So let's try Clang. And that works too. And we still get the same weird window. So, you can use GCC or Clang or however, and all clean. It looks like it worked and all that stuff. And if you want to use the Mac, the makefile I have, which is quite complicated, This one I go crazy. I'm very strict about errors. All warnings are errors, and I try to find as many warnings as possible because I don't want to potentially write bugs into my program. I also have an optimization one. So if I'm doing a release build, I have optimized. If I am doing a debug build, I have debugging stuff in there, and I'm looking at fsanitizer and everything else. So if you wanted to use that make file, you would do it like this, and you can direct it to whatever directory you want to build from, but by default, it looks at the source directory. So if I said make, then I could say clean, that would delete the file that it wants to make, which is called this right here. And if I said make, just make, it's going to build. So it built this binary right here called Beginner's Guide to SDL2. And we could run that by doing that Beginner's Guide to SDL2 like this. We get that same window, right? Because it's the same code we just built. And we can see the command that I used to build it. The command is much longer. This is lots more going on here that built that, right? And this make command can handle multiple files and everything else. But we don't need to do that. We could just say make run, right? And I'll do the same thing. I'm just waiting for it to close after 5 seconds. There it goes. And we could say make clean, and then we could say run, and it'll clean it. It'll delete the old version and rebuild it. Or we could say debug run or release run. The debug and release have the very strict flags in. If you don't use debug or release, it just builds it. It just does easy build on it. It basically doesn't do all the strict building. But debug and release do what they say in the 10. The release is for optimization and the debug is for debugging. Okay, but we don't need to use that. We can just use GCC. So all that said and done, let's get back to what we were doing here. And we have a window open, but we have nothing rendered, right? So we go over here to create render. This is the thing that's going like a canvas that we're going to paint on. So we had a window open, but we had no canvas to paint on. So I was really confused on what to draw. So on this one, we're going to create a render. We need the pointer to the window. We need an index, which we're going to be using -1. Where is that? The index of the render driver, -1 initializes the first supporting requested flags. So we're going to use -1. And the flags here, these can be ORed together, but I'm just going to use the flag that is accelerated. I'm going to use this flag right here, and I'm going to save it in render flag. So I'm just going to copy this right from this page here. So I just clicked on flags to see it. So we need the pointer to the window. We need an index that I'm going to use -1 and some flags. And this is going to return a pointer to an SDL render. So let's do that here. I could have copied this whole function actually. My LSP will do it. But anyway, yeah, I'll just do it. I'll just go back and grab that flag. So this is we'll call it ren for now. And it's SDL, this function, SDL create render, returns a render. So here, this is the type that it's returning, and we're just calling it ren. So we need a pointer to the window, and we just called it win. So there's that. We have the index, which is -1. And the flags, I'm going to go back to it. Click on this guy, get that flag that I want to use. And you can read the different flags and try different ones. I'm going to put that up here on render flags. So if you ever want to find it, you don't have to look through your code to find out where it was. They'll all be in one spot. There are kind of options for your project. Okay, so that creates a render. So once we have a render, we destroy a render just like we did with the window. It takes a pointer to the render. It's void. So let's just do that as well. it returns nothing. And we're doing last in, first out. So since I created the render last, I'm going to destroy it first. And here is we just called it ren, I believe. Yeah, there it is, ren. Okay. So this is still not going to do anything because we're not clearing the render. So let me just show you real quick that it's not going to actually change anything that we just saw. So, and I'm just going to rebuild it this way, and I'm just going to put a logical and after it and do main, because that's what it's building is main. So it's going to build it, then run it if it was successful. And we see that it's still not doing it. And let me just just remove main and build it again, just to make sure. Yeah, we're good. So the reason why this is, and I can't even close it right now, is because I can't close it because we haven't set up anything to close it. It closes after 5 seconds because of the SDL delay. It's run for 5 seconds and then it goes and cleans itself up and exits. So and I didn't put it up here, but basically what we want to do is we want to clear the render and then present the render. So let's go back to this right here, probably. Whoops, I accidentally pulled this out. Put it back. Okay, so it's going to be in the render. That's events, play render. Let's look over here. It's probably in here somewhere. And we need two things. We need render clear. So I'm going to open this up in a new window. And we need render present. That's how you kind of like show what you clearing the render to like black by default. And then you want to actually show it. So this is present. Okay, so we have these two functions here, render clear. I don't check to see if this fails because this happens in the game loop where it's drawing really fast. It's not that important if it fails for a frame or something like that. I don't think it does anyway, but it's not catastrophic. It's not like loading resources. So I actually don't check the failure on this one, but this is just SDL render clear, and we pass the render in it, and all it does is it kind of clears it. So like if you had anything drawn on there in the last frame, it's going to blank that out to black because we haven't set a render color, so it's just going to be black. And now we have a black render, and now we're going to show that black render. You don't actually see it until we do present. So it's like somebody's drawing on a canvas that we can't see yet, and then it gets displayed to us. So these two functions together both take the render, and this one doesn't return anything, but the clear one does return, but we're not going to check it. Oh, well, we haven't checked anything yet, but like we're not later on even going to check this. So what I want to do is just run both of them. So it'll be SDL render, and this isn't renderer, this is just render clear. And we just put in the pointer to the render, and then SDL render present. And this is also just the pointer to the render. And now if I run this, so I'm just going to remove it again and rebuild it. I should get a black screen, and now it looks correct. It actually drew this a bit funny off the screen, but what can you do? So this is great, but we're not checking anything, errors or anything. And I know I'm going to run out of time. I'm going to go for a couple more minutes. I'm going to run out of time, so maybe I'm going to restart this later or just continue on where I left off. I'm not really sure. So this is great, but this is we're not checking if anything failed at all. So like this is just like we're assuming every function we just run is successful, and we could start nesting these, and it starts becoming very ugly. So let's kind of just deal with how we check if an error occurred. Okay. So we created a window here. So this needs to be, this function returns a pointer to a window. If it failed any way in creating this, it's actually going to return a null pointer. So all we need to do is check to see if this is null. So we could say if, we could say when equals null, right? We could say that. if you don't want to write all this out because it's too verbose for you, you could also just do this. You could put a bang on it, and that is functionally the exact same. Okay, so if not window, which is window is nothing. I'm going to do the explicit one right here, where window equals null. Again, both are the same, both are valid. And we're going to use the fprintf because I want to print it to standard error because an error occurred. Okay, so something like this, and I want to know what happened. So I'm going to say error creating window or something like, error creating window. So let me just see how I wrote it before. Error creating, okay, yeah, I just did that. Okay, fair. Did I use a colon? No? Oh, yeah, I did. I get it. Okay. So error creating window. And I put a colon, and the reason why is I want to get the information from SDL. And now SDL has an internal thing. If an error occurs, it returns this. It returns a string via this SDL get error. You get a string back. So I'm going to use that to get the actual error that occurred. So this will be SDL get error, right? But it's not like that. It's a string, so we need to use the %s, and then we'll give it a new, right? So this will be a parameter. So it's formatted string or whatever. So this is going to return a string here, and it's going to go right here. So error creating window, and then the error that gets returned by SDL internally will go there. Okay, so and if this did happen, we just want to bail out, right? So we can say return. We could say return 1, right? Because it's bad things happened. But this 1, I really want to be explicit about the fact that something bad's happened. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to do int return status. I think that's what I called it. Let me just make sure I'm calling everything the same. Exit status is what I called it. Okay, let's do that. Exit status equals exit failure. Okay, so I did add stdlib. I'm not sure if I need that or not. Let me check. I can't remember off the top of my head. It's not complaining. It might already be pulled in by SDL.h2. I'm not actually sure, but my LSP sometimes adds in things. So I'm assuming maybe this macro is defined there. It's not complaining though, because SDL.h may be pulling in that same thing. But anyway, I'm creating this and I'm setting it to the failure, which is going to be a 1 on my system, but it could be depending on what system it is, it may be a different number. But it means a failure occurred. So down here, I'm going to return the exit status. So that means when I exit out, this is exited badly, right? But if I get down here to here, I'm going to flip the exit status to success. That means good. So if I'm bailing out anytime before this, something bad has happened, right? So I'm setting this up, but I can't use it yet. I need to restructure things because I don't want to nest these if statements. Yeah, I'm kind of. When we get into this is the part where I don't know. Like I want to build it out into a different style, but I don't know exactly how the best route to do that. I want to basically remove all of these. I could nest a bunch of if statements and put all the errors in, but it becomes very messy. Okay, so what I would rather do is actually pull this stuff out of this function and have it in a initialize SDL function, and that's going to kind of tell me if it failed or not. I believe that's how I did it here. And init SDL game init. Yeah. Game. And that's just going to tell me if anything failed or not. Okay. So, and I want to hold these two things in a struct. So I'm going to be moving all this around. But I'm going to, yeah, there's, because SDL3 is not done. Yeah, SDL3 is not done. You can't make an SDL3 tutorial right now because it's broken and it's not finished. That's the problem. I just released the shell game that I showed off yesterday, and I actually was writing that for SDL3, and I had to port it to SDL2 because SDL3 can't be used right now. So that's why there's no tutorials for SDL3, because the people making SDL3 haven't finished it yet. So we're not getting sound in SDL3 until SDL 3.3, but there is no SDL 3.3 yet. So there's SDL 2.24, I think, and it doesn't have sound. So that, yeah. So I literally had to stop a project I was working on and backport it to SDL2 just to get it to work. But I do need to stop right here, unfortunately, because I have to run and pick up my son from school. So I'm going to come back later. So they were using the SDL2 sound in SDL3, and then they broke it. So if you try to compile the mixer right now, the mixer right now requires you to have SDL 3.3 installed, but there is no such version of SDL. SDL is not at 3.3 yet. It's at 3.2. So you can't build the SDL mixer for 3. So it's a problem. But when they sort it, I will be back. I have already a bunch of SDL3 videos. So when they do sort it out, I will be, making more SDL3 videos. I have some projects, up there already. But I do need to run right now. Sorry about that. I didn't know how it was going to go with time and how I was going to explain how this is. So I'll probably come back later and redo this one. Okay. See you guys.